Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of our Mystical Wellness podcast. We are joined this evening by a fantastic personality, actually. We've got Danny Moore from Foragers Fancy, and that is a world-based business crafting salts, oils, and award-winning liqueurs from wild, sustainable botanicals. His love of foraging began at age 10, picking sloes with his dad in Essex, and today Danny turns nature's bounty into gourmet creations, infusing traditional methods with a modern twist, all rooted in his deep connection to the land. So Danny, welcome. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Nice introduction.
Yeah, it's from your website.
Probably ChatGPT, yeah. Maybe Tony
Yeah, a
Madonna
little bit.
actually. Tony Madonna maybe helped me
I
out. Yeah.
kind of collate bits and then I put it into my ChatGPT and he
But
makes it
better than
sound.
the bio I sent you anyway, yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
I didn't even get a chance to read it, to be honest.
Okay,
I'd already pulled information and I just carried on.
fair
So no
enough.
problem. So tell us a bit about yourself. Like, how did it get started for you? Where this passion came forward for nature?
Well, literally, as I said, when I was 10, I started making slow gin with my dad, but I didn't really have a passion for it then. We just appreciated the end product, really. Um, as youngsters, having homemade slow gin at Christmas was a real treat. Um, and then I guess in my teens and my 20s, I didn't do a great deal of anything sort of foraging wise in nature, etc. Um, but then, having worked away in Vienna for a while, I came back and qualified as a tree surgeon, and that reignited my passion for most things that were natural. I got it from my granddad. Actually, my granddad was also Daniel, and we look a lot alike. We are very similar um, temperament, character in a lot of ways. And he had a garden which was, so I remember being on his back step shelling peas, and it was like, one for the belly, one for the pot, one for the belly, one for the pot. Eating his tomatoes because he had roses one down one side and he had all veg down the other. So I think that set me up when I was really young, probably like 4 or 5, to know how to appreciate homegrown food, which we don't really have as much of these days, obviously. And then, as I said, when I worked in Vienna for 2 years, came back and decided on a bit of a change of scenery, if you like.
What were you doing in Vienna?
Well, I'm a scaffolder by trade. So I've been scaffolding for, well, best part of 40 years, 20 years on construction, and the last 20 years probably is freelance doing events, studios and TV and all sorts of crazy stuff. But Vienna, we were there for 2 years, had a great 2 years in Vienna. It was a bit sort of our feeder same pet, really, you know. But we had a fantastic 2 years, came back with, a decent amount of money, and it was during sort of a bit of a recession in the UK in terms in the building trade anyway. So we did really well. We put up some unbelievable structures, worked on cathedrals, some stunning buildings. I mean, Vienna is beautiful anyway. But obviously living there for 2 years is very different to going as a tourist. Um, so I came back just before Christmas on the second year, decided that I was going to sort of have a change direction. I was already logging and splitting my own wood, so I lived in a cottage at the time, and I was doing some foraging at the time then. And I just thought I'll try, I'll try out be a tree surgeon. So I went back to college and I loved it. It was in the 30s, and I did 3 months at college, and I qualified as an arborist, um, which which gives you all the technical skills, the climbing skills, and then
I was just thinking about that actually. Doing the scaffolding, you'll be like perfect on heights and everything, won't you? So going up a tree, it's no problem for you.
it's different. It is very different. I mean, it didn't bother me the height, but it's very different. So when you're on a scaffold, if the scaffold sways as much as a tree sways, it's a very different feeling. If you've got a scaffold that's swaying like that, there's a problem.
Yeah.
When you go up into a tree and you anchor into a tree, we did some work at the college, and we actually did a lot of work in Windsor Great Park, or part of now the King's Estate, if you like. And some of the trees we were in on windy days, you could see them twisting in the wind, and you could feel the twist. So you're in the tree trying to get around the tree. You're trying to work your way around the tree because ideally you're going to get an anchor point and then prune the tree. And there's a lot of movement there. So you're in a harness, obviously you've got ropes, etc., etc. You don't want to cut your own rope with a chainsaw or a saw. So
That's like Harry
it's-
Potter and the
yeah,
Whomping Willow, and it's like
yeah,
twisting around.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly that. We had a
Oh my
tree that had
gosh.
been, we had a tree that had actually been physically, it was an oak tree that had been properly pruned, so that it would make it easy for us to find an anchor point and then do the branch walking, as they called it. And we could actually see this tree twisting in the wind, like it was alive. Well, they were alive, obviously, but it was just really sort of, it was about 60, 70 foot, and we got to about 50 foot in the tree, and we said to the guy, we shouted down to the guy below, what kind of wind speed you guys, working? She's like, what's the limit? And he went, oh, this is about it. And I was like, thanks a lot. We were just novices, just learning. But it's basically rope access with a chainsaw. So you obviously have to be, but the bigger point for me was that it gave me a much better understanding of tree biology, which I've done at school, and obviously tree identification. So all the main shrubs, all the main plants that you get in Northern Europe and the UK. So I had a knowledge anyway, but this kind of, expanded that knowledge, and that kind of got me into it even more. So I think back then I was making jams and chutneys, the usual stuff we all make, and then when I moved out away from there, I moved to East London, and I was picking sloes one day with a bag on my shoulder. This is an absolute true story. And this guy was a bit posh, and he said to me, "What are you doing, old chap?" He said, "Picking sloes, are you, old man?" I said, "Yeah." I didn't know who he was. I had no clue. And he said, "Making sloe gin, are you, old man?" I said, "Yeah, sloe gin, sloe vodka." I used to make it every year for my family. And he tapped his nose like that, and he went, "Do yourself a favour, old chap. Try sloe brandy. Mark my words, you won't regret it." And I was like, "Oh, okay, give that a go." So I did all three. I made them about 6 bottles of each. I made them over a year. Always left it a year, which gives you a better flavour. Tried the gin, which I liked, been making it for years. Tried the vodka, which I kind of preferred actually, because I'm not a massive gin fan on its own. And then I tried the brandy, and I was like, oh my God, that's it, game over. And that was 6 bottles. That was 15 years ago. And that's now scaled up to probably over 1,000 bottles of slow brandy.
Oh, that's
So
amazing.
so that was the sort of the start of it, if you like, doing the tree surgery thing, but still not a business. I still did my freelance work, still
Mm.
loving what I did. I went, I went to the Bahamas. I went to, I've been to different places.
So what were you doing in the Bahamas?
We built a stadium for the beach football, the World Beach Football, and it was in Nassau in the Bahamas. So we
Yeah.
were there for 3 weeks. I didn't get to finish the contract off, unfortunately, but I got out there for the original build, or the initial build, and they had to put all concrete pads down, laser levels, etc., etc. So we built about 4,000 seater stadium, all out of
Wow,
modular scaffold with seats for the beach football, right
that's so
by
cool.
called Paradise Island, PI they call it in the Bahamas. So that was quite an experience. And
What's the weirdest place that you've actually been?
the weirdest,
Yeah.
well, not the weirdest. I was the most impressive place I've been
Mm.
would be definitely Norway and Tom Cruise and Mission Impossible.
Oh yes, go on, tell us about that.
So 2020, got a random phone call from a friend, well, a guy that I work with occasionally, and this was during COVID. COVID just sort of kicked in, and he phoned me up and said, "Might have a job coming up." I've not long moved up to the northwest from London, um, and he said, it's somewhere near London. And I was like, okay, fine. Can't tell you any more than that. Bit hush hush. I was like, no problem. So then about a month later, he phoned me up again. So this job's might definitely probably going to happen. One of those kind of things, So I was like, okay, it's near Oxford. I said, well, that's not London. I said, that's Oxford. But this guy's a Scotsman, so his geography is a little bit different. Anyway, long story short, the job finally came to pass. We went to a place called Wallingford on Thames, and we built this. Well, I call it a dummy ramp. It was 400 foot long in a farmer's field, and there was a jump off the ramp into probably 30,000 cardboard boxes, which were in a chalk quarry. And the whole idea of this practice ramp was to get the right angle of the ramp and the right speed of the bike, because they realised we didn't know where the location for the actual shoot was at the time. We didn't even know where the film was for to begin with. The first week we got there, we started building it, setting it all out. We knew it was an action film, had no idea of any more than that. And then probably 7, 8 days in, black helicopter appeared, circled around the field. Everyone was put their masks on, and then someone said the adults have arrived, which is what they call you know, the top of the chain, if you like. And Mr. Cruise turned up with his bodyguard.
Did you
I was like,
meet him? Like,
yeah.
oh,
Not so
amazing.
much. Well, when he did the practice jumps at Oxford, I was on the top of the ramp getting the bike back up, which was quite cool. But he
Mm.
was like literally, he's very focused on what he does. But I spoke to him in Norway, so we finished in Oxford or Wallingford, I should say. And then as we finished the actual ramp, the guys that were running the job said to us, how do you feel, guys feel about going to Norway? And we're like, oh, okay, because we got to build this again. All
Yeah.
right, but it's going to be twice the size.
Whoa.
Okay, and it's going to be on top of a mountain, 5,000 feet in the air. And I was
Oh
like, wow,
wow.
all right, okay. So everything's got to go by helicopter. So that's what we did.
Oh
I spent
amazing.
3 months working on Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, not the last one that's come out, but the one before. So the work,
Yeah.
it was MI7, that's all they said. There was no title for it at the time.
Mm.
Met the guy, spoke to the guy, very professional. The work that goes into the stunts is unbelievable. The ramp we built was the biggest stunt ramp, I think, in history. It's been built for a film. And I was
Yeah.
the lead scaffolder on that.
That's amazing.
So that's
Wow,
my
that's so cool.
huge claim to fame.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, I've worked in some amazing places, so, but
Mm.
that's the pinnacle of what I've done, and
Yeah.
I don't I don't think I'll ever surpass that. You know,
Mm.
I've worked at Glastonbury, I've worked at Reading festivals, I've built stages, studios.
So when you worked at Glastonbury, it was for the big event, for the music
Yeah, so
festival.
Glastonbury, the pyramid
Yeah.
stage stays in situ. That's something that stays up. The frame stays up.
Yeah.
That's here every year. We did all the camera runs front of the stage, on the other stage. We did the jazz stage. So one year we went there and built a little viewing platform on near Worthy Farm, which looks down across onto the pyramid stage. And then
Yeah.
we also built a thing called the Tree House, which was the main presentation area for the DJs, which we also built at Reading about 4 times, Reading Festival. So that was quite cool. But then year two we went there and we actually got the standby. So me and my friend were paid to be with the BBC and got the whole festival. It was the Verve
Mm.
2008. It was
Oh, the
amazing.
Verve, that would have been so cool.
It was
Yeah.
really cool. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the best
Yeah.
place to be is front of house above the monitors because it's changed now
Yeah.
with house setups, but it used to be quite a big scaffold structure. All the monitors would be here, then you'd be on top of that. So we had access all areas passes. We'd jump up on top of that, go above the monitors. The guys,
Yeah.
the tech guys, go up onto the top, and we'd have our own little balcony overlooking the whole crowd with all the flags and the banners, which looks incredible, right into the front of the stage with the best sound that you're ever going to get.
That's amazing.
So we
I
would
just
we
did
loved it.
at the start of the year, I did a 4 month sound check course, sound and lighting tech.
Right, okay.
So at some point, hopefully later in the year, I'll be able to go to festivals, mainly to do lighting. That's what I want to do, is
Yeah.
lighting tech stuff. But yeah, that's really cool. So I've left construction now. I don't work in construction anymore. This year, I've just been working on my spiritual business, but I want to do more with retreats and festivals. So bringing in sound and lighting into that would be cool. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, I've always loved festivals. So this
yeah,
year, um, we've got in a few weeks' time, I'll be doing the Southport Flower Show, which isn't really a festival, but it is in a way.
yeah, yeah.
Then I'm going to Reading Festival the
Mm.
following weekend, only on the Sunday. But Reading's my sort of spiritual home because my first festival was there in '83, so that's a long time
Wow.
ago. And then the following weekend, I'm doing Network Trade Festival. So I love a festival,
So
when they're done well, you
what
know.
happens to all your produce when you're traveling? Because I remember Alison was saying that things need to be stirred and all this kind of stuff when you were away. Is that true?
Yeah, not yeah. I mean, not so much now. So I mean, I have been making stuff from what I've picked for years, but
Mm,
not as a business. And what I've learned over the years is that there's no point being, like any business really, being a busy fool. It's nice to be able to turn out, some very nice jam or medlar jelly that I've done in the past, but you could be all day in the kitchen making 4 or 5 jars or even 10 jars. It's not a business. So I've gone when I first moved up to the northwest. I bought my first 400 litre vessel, stainless steel vessel, so I could make the slow brandy and make it in a much bigger quantity. Before then, I was using demijohns and kilner jars, mainly demijohns. I had loads of demijohns, which are 5 litres. I got a 400 litre vessel. Now I've got a 400, two 500s, a 300, and some smaller ones. So I've got like 2,000 litre capacity effectively, which enables me to then use a lot more of the basic ingredient with the base spirit. Sometimes I add sugar, sometimes not, depends on what I'm making. And obviously the length of time that I leave it depends on what I'm making as well. But if you're using anything with sugar in, you have to agitate it. I've got an oak paddle that I use, a bit like witchy poo. I stir it, and it's quite cool. So it takes about 3 months normally with the brandy to get all the sugar to dissolve properly, and then you can leave it to do its thing. But it's a year in the making, so you've got 8 9 months to wait, and then you have to filter it all out and etc etc. But it's great fun. I love it. It's manual, which I've always done anyway. Um, I'm outside most of the time, which just gives me a nice sort of demeanour most of the time because I'm, communing with nature, for want of a better word. I spend a lot of time in the kitchen, obviously, as well, but, you know, I love being out in that environment. So when I was working on building sites, even, or even, Festivals, you've got a little bit more freedom. You know from construction how restricted construction sites can be. Events have still got, well, I've now got a much higher standard of health and safety for sure, but it's still a little bit less onerous than some of the construction sites. And for me, that was when I started doing event work, and it was all bespoke work. It was all done to a certain level over and above what you did before in construction, and that was all done to a deadline because the event has to take place on a certain day. That really suited me, and
Yeah.
so I
See,
think it
I
fits
did
into what
health
I
and
do now.
safety coordination. That was one of my main things, was doing health and safety and quality management.
Yeah, yeah, no, but
Yeah,
I mean,
but I
health and
don't miss
safety.
it
No,
at
well, health and
all.
safety for me is
Yeah.
that my own particular take on it, for what it's worth, is that we obviously need health and safety. We need to reduce accidents. We need to get people going
Mm,
home from their shift safe at night. But at the same time, we've also very much dumbed down the industry and tried to
yeah.
make it idiot proof. And
Yeah.
that's unfortunately the way it's gone. And there are a lot of different techniques now in building, and a lot of easier ways to do certain things. And that's I've got no problem with that.
Mm,
We also are trying to sort of lower it to the lowest common denominator, and we're taking the common sense factor completely out of the equation. And you can't do that. And also, you cannot substitute experience.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, the workforce in construction in the UK, there's so many people aging out of it now
of course,
that, all the apprentices coming in, they're not time served, they don't have any experience, they don't have common sense at all.
no,
So we had a lot of people who were due for retirement, but they were staying on longer anyway. And if they didn't, the industry would collapse. It totally would. Yeah,
yeah, hundred
insane. But
percent.
it was like
I was asked to do it.
50%
I
of
was
our
asked to be.
workforce were aging out. Yeah.
Yeah, I was asked to be to do. I did think about going into training, the training
Mm.
side of it on the
Yeah.
scaffolding side of things, and I could easily have done it. I've had my advanced
Yeah.
ticket for 20 plus years, but it just didn't really sitting in a classroom
Mm.
wouldn't have been my thing.
Yeah.
I was a contract manager for a little while, probably 18 months, 2 years, small works and contract manager. And again,
Yeah.
it wasn't my thing. I much prefer to be out on the tools, hands on, doing it,
Mm.
rather than relying on someone else who I wasn't, too sure of trying to get it done.
Yeah.
And then,
I,
it's not
I
your,
just I love the idea of all these creative structures that you're making, all these different projects and movies, and I just think that's so awesome. It really
I made
is.
a fantastic tree once, or two trees once, for a Battersea Arts Centre, all out of scaffolding.
Wow. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, and then I did for Young Frankenstein in Garrick Theatre in London. I had to
Mm.
build a specialist stage. I did two things actually for the same guy. So I did one in the Garrick Theatre, which lasted just under a year. I was
Mm.
gutted really because I had to inspect it once a week, which was quite cool. So it's like a nice little 3 day out on a Friday. Uh,
Yeah.
and I did another one for him, West Side Story in the Curve Theatre in Leicester. Again, a specialist bit of structure so that they could cut away some of the underside for storage and then still have a bandstand and stuff up top. So, but it's I did it. I did the drawings for them. I did it all. I did all the risk
Mm.
assessments, etc., etc. And it's nothing I couldn't do. I've done it since I was like 16.
Yeah.
So it's in me. It's in my dad's a scaffolder.
Yeah.
My real dad. So he's 83 now. So he only stopped really a few years ago,
Mm.
and he was still in demand. My granddad, who I very much take after, was a steel erector.
Mm.
So it's kind of a little bit in the blood.
Yeah.
But I think we're just outdoor people.
Yeah.
And office work. Did it, tried it, didn't really, but not my thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm indoors all day anyway now, but I do like to get out and about. Tell us about your liqueurs, the Bramble whiskey liqueur and that kind of thing.
Well, so we started off obviously with the brandy many years ago, 15 years ago now, the brandy. Recently, I've added a few other drinks to my range. The slow port is I'm proud of the brand. It's probably still my favourite drink, and it got a great taste award in 2023, which I was quite happy about. So this year, I decided to send off my slow brandy and my slow port to the IWSC, which is the International Wine and Spirits Competition. Now that's global. That's been going for 50 years. That's really sort of high end stuff, and you get the results at the end of May. I was due to go to not Nantwich, sorry, Southport Food and Drink Festival on Friday. On the Thursday, I got an email from them saying, "Congratulations, your slow port was achieved 90 points, so it's won a silver medal." I was like, "Yeah, great, fantastic, that's amazing." But nothing for the brandy. I was like, "Oh, I don't believe it! Like the brandy is incredible." So didn't hear anything. Then traded Friday. Didn't hear anything. Traded Saturday, didn't have a great signal on my phone. Still heard nothing. I thought, I don't believe it. Of the two drinks, I would have put money on the brandy winning the award. Anyway, came back Saturday, went through my emails. So brandy also got a silver, 94 points, one off a gold. So this year, my two of my drinks have achieved IWSC medals, which is global recognition. Now, it's not me saying it. Most of my customers that try my drinks really like them. I get really good feedback. I do get quite a lot of sort of return customers. The port is made by reusing the sloes from the brandy, so that in terms of sustainability, it's right up there. I pick the sloes, so it's really good for me because I get to use them twice. The Bramble whiskey came about because I wanted to get a nice blackberry infused drink. So I use a really nice base scotch, an 8-year-old base scotch, and flavoured whiskies are becoming more of a thing. I've got elderflower gin, which is not a great seller, but I like to use elderflower. Fennel vodka, one of my favourites, but it's a real Marmite because it's aniseed, so you either like it or you don't. Rhubarb isn't foraged, my rhubarb gin, but it's from my allotment. So again, I use the rhubarb that way. So I've got about 7 or 8 different flavours, and I tried to sort of go across the way. I'm interested to see how the sea buckthorn gin is going to turn out. So last year I picked sea buckthorn, which is a very small orange fruit on a very spiky stem, and it looks like orange corn on the cob effectively, and it tastes a very sour orange. So I've added sugar to it. I put it in a demijohn just as a tester pot, and done about 4 or 5 litres. And I've got more to do, but I want to trial it first. They don't always work out, like I've tried stuff before that hasn't worked out. But most of what I've done through trial and error and probably through best part of 50 years experience works out well. So I'm now a multi-award winning producer, which I can shout about and obviously will shout about. But
That's
more importantly for
amazing.
me is I use natural botanicals. I don't use artificial colours or flavours. I'm not doing toffee, apple, marshmallow. They're not bright blue, green, orange,
Mm,
whatever. That's not me. That's not my thing. I'm not
yeah.
interested in doing that. I want to give people a natural product, same as the wild garlic salt. I do a lot with wild garlic, the salt, the oil, the vinaigrette. I don't really make the pesto anymore because it's a little bit more time consuming, but also has got a very short shelf life. So again, going back to what works at market
Mm,
and what makes sense to actually sell to people, the pesto is brilliant, and it sells all day long. But
yeah.
the salt's much easier to make and sells 2 or 3 times as much. So
That sounds good. So
that was
you've
something
got
that's taken 4 years.
rosemary salt as well.
Occasionally, yeah. So rosemary salt's when I do on occasion. So it's something that I don't do every year. I mean, I've tried it about 3 years ago, no, 2 years ago actually, and I sold some, but in comparison to the wild garlic salt, it didn't sell anywhere near as much. Um, Probably 10-15% of what I would make from the wild garlic salt. So
Yeah.
again, you've got to sometimes understand that it might be a great idea, but actually, in real terms, as a business, if it's not
Yeah.
really working sales wise, then you have to look elsewhere.
So what would you do with the wild garlic salt? How do you use it?
Oh, well, wild garlic salt you can use. Everyone asks me this question. I love this question because you can use it for everything. So I use wild garlic salt with a lot of one pot cooking. So I actually used some this evening in a curry. So we've got ridiculous amount of courgettes and marrows really on the allotment now. So that chicken and spices, garlic salt along with regular olive oil and onion, that gives you a nice base. If I'm using the garlic oil, I use salt and onions instead. So I always use like the holy trinity of garlic, oil, salt and onion, or four things. So those things are the base ingredients for my chilies, spag bowl, whatever ragouts. Um, Garlic salt is really good as a rub as well, particularly on salmon, steak, and lamb. It's amazing on cheese on toast. And that was a customer's suggestion to me about 4 years ago. I said, "Have you never tried it on cheese on toast?" I was like, "No." So then I tried it on cheese on toast. So why not? So yeah, a nice bit of sourdough, nice bit of cheddar. Start to melt the cheddar, but don't finish it, and then put some salt on, and it just melts into the cheese. And then yeah.
Oh, that sounds great. That sounds great. Now,
So
I've had an
now,
allotment, and I had an allotment for 2 years, and I did not make it successful. It was such hard work, and one of our ladies has an allotment, and she has to go there every day. And so, what tips do you have for people who have an allotment or a garden and they want to make it, abundant?
Uh, Tips. Okay, so
Yeah,
we've got the same issue with our allotment. We actually just got given a dirty plot notice for having long grass on our allotment. So even though the council could see we had quite a lot of produce growing,
yeah.
they weren't happy with the length of the
It's
grass.
it's so strict, and there's all these
Yeah,
other people who are like there full time, and
yeah.
then
Well, the
they're
thing is,
kind of yeah,
yeah, if you're retired and you
yeah,
can afford to have that, to allocate that time to it, that's fantastic. If you're working and you've got a busy business, which I have, Alison has as well, it's
yeah,
difficult to fit that in.
yeah.
Several tips. I mean, I've been growing fruit and veg for
Mm,
years. So several tips I would say for most people, I would stick with the fairly easy croppers. So if you've got a greenhouse or even a small sort of covered greenhouse or polytunnel, not a polytunnel, probably not, but tomatoes are great, nice little cropper. Broad beans are quite easy to do, other than a bit of black fly. They don't really get, damaged too much by pests. Kale is much easier to grow than something like cabbage because cabbage will get cabbage white butterfly. Kale, once it's established, we've got loads on our allotment right now. You can cut and come again with kale for months and months and months. So you need to look at your space, whatever space you have, and look at what yield you're going to get. This year we've got quite a big, two big sort of plots at the front. One of them had potatoes in, the other one's got sweet corn in and courgette. Sweet corn's just about ready to go, and that particular plot with the sweet corn and courgette will give us a much bigger harvest than the same size plot on the other side, which gave us potatoes. I've taken up 2 lines of potatoes now, and you probably get those in a supermarket for, 4 or 5 quid. It's nice that they're your own, but you've got to work out if it's worth the time and effort for the return that you get. And if you've got a smaller space, then you need to make sure that everything that you're growing is worth its space in that spot. I mean, obviously, ideally, you can try and rotate your crops between legumes, and brassicas, and roots and stuff, but you can't always do that. They recommend it for disease or to stop disease. A lot of people talking no dig now, so use raised beds and use manure if you can. Um, but really, the other tip I would say is if you've got, it's better to work on one area and work on it very well rather than just do a bit here, a bit there, a bit there, a bit there, because the weeds will come in anyway. If you clear one area and cover it over, then that will save you a lot of work in the long run. If you try and do a little bit here and a little bit there, then next time you come back to it, it'll be exactly the same. And we found that.
yeah.
So
I went away for like a weekend and it came back and it was unrecognizable.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah,
So I gave
exactly.
up on it, and one of my sisters kept trying to do the double digging and all that, and we just gave up in the end. But I
No,
did
no
have it
one.
two
I
years.
mean, no, the double digging was a thing back in the day.
Mm,
What a lot of people are realising now, even because I've got a lot of friends that are farmers on my units on the farm, what they're saying now, because the topsoil is impoverished, so we need to find a way to replenish the topsoil rather than using chemicals.
mm.
One way to do that is a better way to do it is they're saying now is no dig.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're putting mulches on top, you're putting manures on top. I mean, if you can get horse manure that's well rotted, that's fantastic. Black gold, they call it. You know, you can use grass clippings and stuff like that. I mean, there'd always be an element of weed seed within horse manure, generally, depending on where they're feeding, where they're grazing. But
Mm,
that's something that's going to go with the territory. But in terms of nutrients, I mean, we have hens, and up until recently, we had some rabbits as well. So you could use all their, rabbit poos like a little dry pellet.
yeah.
Perfect. Put it in your composter. Fantastic.
Mm,
Anything you can make yourself in terms of shreddings or kitchen waste, etc., etc., with a small compost bin or a bigger one. If you can reuse that, you're recycling it and putting it back into the soil. That's
mm,
a win-win.
that sounds amazing. Are you working on any new ideas for products with like Christmas coming forward?
Say again. Say again.
Have you got any new ideas for Christmas? Any new products that you're working on?
Not really. I mean, last couple of years, we've done Christmas baubles, which have been
Mm,
very, very popular. So we
the
put a small
spirit spirit
Red
bubbles.
Bulls, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So with we I've got to sort of work out how to do it because 2 years, 3 years ago, we had beautiful gift boxes and there were four in a gift box and we had little stickers. It was like a bit of a guessing game. There were three that
Collection
were sort of like,
box.
well, there were there were four different flavors. One of them was an elderflower gin, which was sort of
Mm,
an amber color, but the rest was sort of a reddish color. So they might have been the sloe gin or the bramble whiskey or whatever. But we had a little sticker underneath the bottom, so you could actually But BW was Bramble whiskey, SG for sloe gin. So you could tell, but otherwise you could
Mm.
just put them on the tree and say, well, it's lucky dip,
Yeah.
which I thought was great.
Yeah.
But then this year, so last year I did basically just a brandy in the pool,
Mm.
and especially as a table placement, the pool
Mm.
absolutely flew out because people just said, oh, we could have a cheese board and we could have
Yeah.
one of these, which is like a sort of double measure on the side of the table, and why not?
Mm.
And they flew out. I couldn't make enough of those. But I would like to. I used to do things like Christmas trees in bottles. So I used to get rosemary in either vinegar or oil, and then put rose hips in. It looks like a
Mm.
Christmas tree in a bottle. That was quite cool.
It's
But again,
nice.
it's a lovely idea. It's a fantastic gift. It looks amazing, but
Yeah.
again, it's time consuming. So it's
Mm.
I don't, because I'm trying to sort of scale up on the spirit side of things and winning the awards there now. I'm moving away a little bit more from the forage side of things because as much as I can do that, I like to do that. It's more of my time and less of a return. So I want my business to be successful, obviously, um, and I want to make sure that I'm not. I do a lot of hours on my business, probably as many as I ever did freelance, and I did stupid hours in freelance.
Yeah. Have you got
Um,
any help? Does anyone come and help you? Any staff?
No,
No?
no, no. So this year, this year might change. Alison's helped me out in a couple of markets in the past. In terms of the actual making and processing, that's all me.
Yeah.
But what I'm hoping to do this year, I've got two guys that I know that potentially will be able to double up with me at markets at Christmas. So I'll
Yeah.
be able to be in more than one location.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah.
And then the other thing I might be doing, if I can, well, I can do it. It's just a question of me, arranging everything properly myself. I've got more capacity to make more of what I make, but I don't have the time physically to filter it all and bottle it and label it and blah blah blah. So I could go to they call it a contract distiller with all my handmade drink in probably 10 or 20-litre containers, supply it to them, bottles, labels, and then they bottle it for me. But it's still handmade.
Mm. Yeah.
It's still handmade. It's still foraged. It's still done properly, and that's the only way I can think that I can potentially scale up my business to another level.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I want to do is people have asked me about foraging walks. So what I'd like to do
Yes.
again, really would love to do is to get a small, not army necessarily, but a small group of people that would come out with me foraging
Yeah.
and be happy to come foraging with me, whether it be blackberry sloes, whatever. So they can help me pick the raw ingredient. It'll all be foraged. It'll all be as it should be. It helps me get a bit further in front and saves me some time
Mm.
because they're helping me do it. And I would give them a small bottle of, whatever is
Yeah.
recompense or whatever it is. So I need to
Yeah.
look more into that. But I'm also looking also at doing, last year I did mulled wine blended with slow pour.
Mm.
That'll be a different thing for me this year. So I've already looked at different options for locations where I've got an urn, which is on a timer, so it's done properly. Because mulled wine shouldn't be boiled; it should be a certain temperature. So I tried it last year and it was very successful. The drink was amazing, and it's having worked in Vienna for 2 years and going to amazing Christmas markets in 2 years and drinking
Wow.
great,
Yeah.
great blue wine, great
Mm.
whatever they call it, their sort of heavier drink, and then coming to the UK and going to our Christmas markets and drinking rubbish
They're just
wine,
disappointing.
just a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
So I want to supply good quality
Mm.
and I want to do it at a reasonable price. But I'm fed up of going to Christmas markets, so-called Christmas markets, where they're just
Yeah.
selling cheap tat and it's overpriced.
Yeah.
The food's rubbish, the drinks are not great,
Mm.
and the mulled wine comes out of a huge box.
Yeah.
That's not me.
No.
So that's another option for me moving forward,
Yeah.
which I want to explore because I have my personal license now. So
Mm. You
yeah,
have a
so
great brand. I mean, do you ship international?
I have done a couple of times. I've shipped to
Yeah.
Norway and I've shipped to Ireland, but it's not without its issues. Obviously,
Yeah.
since Brexit, that whole thing has become a lot more difficult. Norway is a very interesting case in point because one
Mm.
of the helicopter pilots from Mission Impossible, he
Mm.
wanted my stuff, so I shipped it out to him. Norway is very very strict on alcohol because they used to have a massive problem out there. So when it gets to Norway, they hold it, and then you have to declare the ABV of the drink you're sending.
Yeah.
And he told me, he messaged me and said, "Can you just make sure it's only 20%?
Oh.
Because then the tariff they pay, because they have to pay tax their end. is less. More than
Right.
20%. He'd have paid almost double in. But I'd send him a bottle of my stuff for like 30 odd quid, and he'd end up paying 70 odd pound for it in Norway.
Oh my word. That's
Yeah,
not good.
no,
Yeah.
it's a mad thing.
Yeah.
And the guy that I worked, the guy that was in charge of us on mission, a guy called Mike O'Shea, amazing Irish guy. He wanted 10 bottles off me, which was shipped out to Dingle in west of Ireland. Nine arrived intact, so we had quite a result really. 9 out of 10 is not bad.
Yeah,
So
that sounds pretty good.
yeah, so I've
So,
sent a few, but it's a real it's not something where I would love to do more of it. You know, I've been
mm,
contacted by the export people that in government, but
yeah.
it's a lot of hoops to jump through, and I've jumped through quite a few already just to get the licenses I've got. And I think, yeah, I'm in a position, hopefully, um, where my business could really take off.
Mm,
I've gone from bottles to demijohns to 2,000 litres capacity. I've gone from a hobby to a business.
yeah.
But I'm kind of in that sort of reach that ceiling at the moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I don't want to compromise on what I do. You know, I'm not going to make banana flavored whatever. You know, I'm not going
No.
to make toffee apple flavored because it's the market.
Yeah.
It's not what I do. I don't like it. I wouldn't do it. I want people to have a
No.
really nice quality experience. I mean, yesterday, I just posted on Facebook yesterday. I was at a village fete run by a lady called Ginny Heathcote Ball. It's quite posh in Rutland, and the guest of honour was Craig Revel Horwood.
I don't know who that is because I don't watch
Strictly
TV.
Come Dancing, one of the
Oh,
judges.
right. Okay. Sorry. I
Yeah,
don't
so
watch
he's
regular
one of the
TV
judges.
anymore.
So
Oh,
he's there with his gold
that's pretty
lightweight
cool.
jacket. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
quite cool. Yeah, it's quite cool. And he came over and he
Yeah.
bought 2 bottles of stuff off me, and then he came back over a little bit later on and he bought another bottle of stuff off me. So he
Oh,
ended up buying
nice.
3 huge bottles off me, plus some vinaigrette. Nice little selfie, put it on his socials and that sort of thing. But you know,
Yeah. That's great.
social media is a whole different beast, and I'm not any good at it.
Yeah.
So as you know,
Yeah. It is tricky. Social media, even I used to spend 2 hours a day and you still don't really get that much. But it's
no,
like you're building it up, aren't you? Yeah.
yeah,
For people who want to start their foraging journey, where
yeah.
should they start? Like locally, what should they be looking for?
Well, right now, as you know, in the moment, if you like, so blackberries. I mean, everything's coming quite early this year because we've had such a dry, warm spring and early summer. So sloes are starting to ripen, which is very early for sloes. You've got sea buckthorn, if you know where to look for it. That's not going to be far off. Blackberry everywhere. Elderberry is starting to ripen. So there's 4 things already you could sort of be looking at. You're definitely going to, obviously most people can identify blackberries. You know, we used to do it jams and crumbles, etc. Apples in apple orchards, they're all starting to ripen up now. Again, they're quite early. Um, Hawthorn makes great ketchup. Hawthorn ketchup, make like a barbecue flavour ketchup. That's
Oh
really
wow,
good.
okay, that's
Yep,
cool.
yep. And it takes a bit of doing, but it's quite a nice one. And it's Hawthorn everywhere. If you're on the Wirral, I mean, the Wirral is like a mini larder,
Yeah,
really. There's so much stuff out there.
yeah.
It really is. I mean, so I would say the main ones that are obvious. So you've got, blackberries, as we said, elderberries, most people can probably identify. They're very small and they're in a spray. They're all together.
Mm,
Then you've got hawthorn, which is a potential one people could use because it is everywhere. Slow's quite small, they look like a blueberry, and you can tell with a slow because the stems have got quite a nasty spine on them because it's a blackthorn is the actual shrub. Um, there are cherry plums around. I've seen quite a lot lately, and plums generally. So everything at the moment is there to be picked. This time of year, normally into September, is a great time for harvesting. Springtime is great for harvesting. I took out some foraging walks in May
mm.
for the Great British Food Festival.
Oh, amazing.
So I went to Trentham Gardens and
Mm,
Arley Hall, and I did five days taking people out foraging walks, and we found lots of things that you would obviously know about. So nettles, you can eat and use; they're fantastic. Dock leaves, which are the antidote to nettles, people think,
mm.
and that they're edible. Um, Wild garlic, which is what I pick a lot of. Then you've got Jack in the Hedge, which is wild garlic mustard. Then you've got cleavers, the sticky willies, the things that you throw on people's backs and they stick to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can eat those. Yeah. Hogweed. It's just
Yeah.
there's so much out there. Springtime's a fantastic time to go sort of
Mm,
foraging. But now, start off with the easy stuff. Start off with the elderberries and the blackberries. And if you want to have a little try something different. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention rose hips.
Yeah.
Rose hips again are just starting to ripen,
Mm.
and they are all over the place. So you can make rose hip syrup. Rose hip vinaigrette's quite an easy one to make. So you can get the rose hips, and you can just top and tail them, and then you can put them in vinegar, and then you can make that into a vinaigrette. The thing about
That
rose
sounds
hips,
great.
they've got a hair inside them, which is an irritant. It's not poisonous, but we used to use it in itching powder in joke shops as kids. So that's what that is. But rose
Mm.
hips are full of vitamin C, and that's why during the war and post-war, we weren't getting any citrus fruit from the Med because all the ships were being sunk.
Mm.
Rose hip syrup was the thing because it was highly concentrated vitamin C.
Wow.
So again, they are everywhere. You couldn't overpick them, and then you don't just have to pick for food consumption either. Right
Mm.
now, I mean, the other day I picked some buddleia to bring home to put in a vase because I love the scent.
Yeah.
There's lots of wildflowers and that you can pick out there right now.
Do you know much about medicinal things that are out there?
Not so much.
No.
It's just not my no. I
Yeah.
wouldn't pretend that I do. I know a few medicinal properties for some things that I pick, but I don't
Mm.
pick my why I forage isn't because it's of a medicinal, reason. I don't make it into tinctures. I don't
Yeah.
make it into medicines. I don't profess to know enough about it. I know
Mm.
certain things have got antioxidants in certain. I know nettles are high in iron. They're better for you nutritionally than spinach. You know,
Wow.
but yeah, and again, I know how to pick a nettle. You can pick the tops out. You can get underneath and pick them without doing too much
Mm.
damage. But we we did a little talk in Hoole outside Chester.
Mm.
Just done a cooking class with nettle pesto, not nettle pesto, nettle salsa verde. So I went out and picked some nettles, and we made a green sauce. It was fantastic. Did
Yeah.
the talk, and the people were asking me what was available to pick now. So I mentioned wild garlic, and I mentioned nettles. I said I just and woman said to me, "There's a big crowd, about 70 people." She said, are they poisonous?" I said, "No, no." I said you can get a reaction. I said, "But they're not poisonous." I said, "I'm sort of
Mm.
pretty much immune to it." I said, "Because I picked quite a lot." And I said reaction, and she started laughing. Right? She's absolutely hysterics, this woman. So I said, "You okay?" So I went and said, "Did you just say erection?" And I said, "No." And the whole room just fell about laughing. I had the microphone. I didn't know what to say. I was just
Oh,
absolutely
that's hilarious.
so funny. So funny, yeah.
That's so funny. So yeah, so if you are going out there picking some gloves,
No,
scissors,
no,
knife,
no, no, no,
come
not
on,
gloves.
tools.
Definitely not gloves.
No.
No, no. I mean, there's obviously techniques. Okay, so
Mm.
if you're picking blackberries, I mean, some people use those. The nurses' gloves. That's the
Yeah.
latex ones. You can do, but part and parcel of it. I mean, nature won't give you everything easily necessarily.
Mm.
No, I mean, when I pick sloes, a lot of the time, they are in mixed hedgerows along with bramble, i.e. blackberries, and rose hips. And sometimes you can get your hand in and get the sloes out, and it's not the sloes that get you, it's the bramble.
Mm.
But it's designed, in a way that, it protects itself.
Yeah.
It wants to reproduce. So
Yeah.
for me, it's not about, taking lumps out of yourself or, losing fingers, but, the odd little scrape or it's not a big deal. It's all part and parcel of what you do. You're out there picking.
Yeah.
It's natural. We're too sanitized.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's got ridiculous, doesn't it? It's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
We don't. I mean, we're talking about I mean, like eating stuff. That's got a bit of dirt on it because it's better for your immune system. You know, we
Mm.
are completely the opposite now in our society. We actually go to, we go just recently. Obviously, the last few years, Morrison's are doing wonky fruit or wonky veg. Why wouldn't they? That's how it
Exactly.
is. You know,
Yeah.
I've grown parsnips that were like 14 inches long, and I was like, oh wow.
Wow, that's
Grown
amazing.
carrots that look like octopus because they hit a stone and they go
Yeah.
around. So that's
Do we
natural.
do we still have those growing contests? We used to have like marrow growing
Yeah, oh yeah.
contests years
Oh
ago,
yeah,
didn't
yeah, yeah.
we?
Yeah, yeah. We won the longest and shortest runner bean competition at the Allotment Society
Oh,
about 20 years
nice.
ago. Yeah, that's quite funny. Yeah, that's quite funny. But yeah, so no, it's just more. As I said, we're too, like we want it all uniform. We want it all to look a certain
Mm.
way, um, and it's tasteless most of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. There's too much tampering going on. And I've even heard that loads of vegetables being grown underground in like bases and things like that with all you know, big setups, which is not good. And it's
No.
like, yeah,
But
not good.
obviously there is a a balance between, well, when you're foraging, you're outside. Obviously, you shouldn't be picking everything off any particular plant. But most of what I pick is very abundant.
Mm,
You never get to all the blackberries because there's always ones over the back that you can't get to. They just desiccate
yeah.
on the vine, if you like. Similarly with elderflower, there's elderflower everywhere, buddleias everywhere. Wild garlic. You'd never. I would find it would almost be impossible to overpick wild garlic. The
Wow.
amount of wild garlic that comes.
I've never seen it. I've never
Never
seen
seen
it in
it.
the wild. No,
Okay.
no.
It's
I
it
have had your garlic salt in the past, yeah. So, but I've not seen it like
probably
out there.
it
Yeah.
probably I know it grows about a mile and a half from where your shop is or your shop
Oh,
used to
right.
be. So not far. So
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean it's everywhere and it comes up
Mm,
for 2 months of the year. We can use the leaf, we can use the flower, we can use the bulb if we want to.
mm,
Again, it's very sustainable.
yeah.
It's taking the time and making the effort,
Yeah.
which we don't do.
No. Oh, this has been amazing. Is there any events coming up that you'd like to promote before we finish?
Yeah, as I said, we're just doing so we got Southport Flower Show, which is the 14th to 17th of August.
Mm,
And then Nantwich Food Festival is the 29th to the 31st.
mm.
I'd like to promote Sugar and Spice Festival, which is in Port Sunlight. That's October the 4th.
Oh, perfect.
And
Yeah.
Barla, the chocolate seller, and Charlene from Port Sunlight Village Trust, they run that one. I mean, it's fantastic. We've done 3 so far. They've all been really, really good. And
Mm,
then after that, it's just Llangollen Food Festival is also
yeah.
October. And then it's just the madness of Christmas. So
Yeah.
I'll be everywhere. I'll be Ripon Cathedral again, which I love. Palm House in Liverpool, potentially in Derbyshire. I'll be all over really. But the ones
Yeah.
the Sugar and Spice one I really like. Oh, actually, the other one is Wirral Bazaar, which would be at Hume Hall as well. That's also
Mm.
in Port
Oh, is
Sunlight.
that Hume Hall?
Yeah, that's
Interesting.
the early
Yeah.
November. I think it's the first or second and third. I'd have
Mm.
to check. But that's done for Northwest Cancer Research. So part of what we take as traders goes 10% of what we take goes to the charity.
Yeah. That
That'd be a
sounds
good one.
great.
So that'd be a good one to shout out to because it's the
Yeah.
cancer charity.
Yeah. So let everybody know how they can find you, how they can connect with you and pick up your items.
Okay.
So you've got your website and your socials. Yeah.
So my website is www.foragersfancy.co.uk. My socials on Instagram and Facebook, don't do TikTok, are both at Foragers Fancy. So that's it. So that's if they want to find me.
So
So I lost you there.
yeah, so I just lost the sound there. I was thinking, what's going on? It's my hearing aids.
Oh, right,
No,
okay.
that's brilliant. You should do TikTok because there's people that do gardening and they do videos about them gardening. And
Yeah.
it's really funny. Yeah, so you should do that.
And you know what? I should do a lot more on social media, but I'm
Yeah.
more about the doing than the filming.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
That's my thing.
Oh,
I
this is
would, I mean, I'm a different generation to that. I understand it makes a lot of sense, and I understand it could make a massive difference potentially.
yeah.
But I'm just too busy making,
Yeah.
creating, and hopefully, and I get my enjoyment more from face to face with people at market and festivals, telling my story,
Yeah.
giving them a little taster, and I get really good feedback from that. So
Yeah.
that's what I
Yeah,
want to continue.
your range is absolutely amazing. And I sampled it a while back, but it was so good. Yeah, and it's really luxurious. So that's
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, the idea. I said the idea behind it
a
is that
few minutes with you to ask you some private questions. And so this has been great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care.